On the 15th of July 1852, Newark Northgate Station opened, and it is still very much an active and very, very busy railway, as you'll be able to see. Now obviously that one wasn't stopping. In July 1878, another line was built for the Great Northern Railway, and that headed off towards Melton Mowbray. And between opening in 1878, there was ballast workings for the first year before passenger workings later operated, and there was even a station, the only one intermediate between Bottesford and Newark, called Cotham, and part of the route has been turned into a cycle route and walkway, a pathway for us all to enjoy. I believe that's what we're going to do in part one of this video. Then we get to part two, which is going to be a little bit trickier, but I'm going to do my best to head off all the way over to Bottesford and its junctions and see what remains and what we can uncover. So as that working heads south towards its destination, I'm going to veer slightly off and head off to my first destination along the former Great Northern route towards Bottesford Junction. Hopefully we'll find something pretty good. So today I begin my journey in Newark, and I'm going to take the former line that headed off towards Bottesford and on to Melton Mowbray, but we're going to go as far as Cotham. Now Cotham is the only location along the route between Newark and Bottesford that did in fact have an intermediate station. And zooming in, you can see the red line running from top to bottom. That is the current East Coast main line, and just look at all those sidings that were branched off this main line into industrial areas serving all manner of factories. But we need to go a little bit further down to the junction just here, and the East Coast main line veers off south to the right, but our disused railway line veers off to the left hand side of this map. So going on the Beacon Hill Road there, you may have briefly noticed on the reverse shot angle that the roof of the bridge still had its plates attached to them to protect from diesel and even steam coming from locomotives. That's a nice little thing that's been left on there, isn't it? So it's now time to say goodbye to the East Coast main line. You can just see the wires looming over the fencing there, and we're going to make our way out of Newark. Got to curve away on the former disused route, and there's a bridge just down there that I'm looking forward to taking a little look at. So this is a fine example of a triple arch brick bridge. Cromwell Road on that side changing to Clay Lane on the other side. One arch is just hidden out of view on that side. Look, then we've got the main one in the middle and the third one on the right hand side. In relatively good condition, although there is the odd chunk missing, as you can see in centre of shot there and just centre of shot there on the left hand arch. But it's nice to see it, and it's nice to see such a lovely reminder of what used to go plummeting below. And there's a short view of it from the other side, with the sunlight brilliantly adorning this beautiful structure. This is Barnby Road, and again it looks just like the one we've just been under on Clay Lane. Triple arches again, look. It's lovely, and it's in beautiful condition. It looks like it's in better condition than the previous one we've just been under. If you stare right into the distance, you may just make out the Clay Lane Bridge. That's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Let's push on. And facing forwards, you can clearly see we're still taking that curve around, but I think it is going to straighten up very, very soon. I'll also be looking to get the drone up very, very soon. I've not been able to do it just yet because for quite a while I've been walking alongside it. It sounds like a primary school, so we're not going to be doing it anywhere above or around that vicinity. We have straightened up now. There's some fishing lakes to the left hand side between ourselves and the East Coast Main Line, and I think there may be or may not be another bridge just further down there. So this is the B6326, and it's a busy sounding main road just above us. Newark back in that direction, and we'd head off towards Balderton in the other direction. It's a different structure, a single arch compared to the other two we've just been under, and it's evidence of where the track bed was once a little further down. Now curiously, at this part we seem to deviate away from what looks like the former track bed. It looks like some people do use it for mountain biking, but we're taking a sharp left right for some strange reason. There must have been a purpose for that. Maybe it was 3 or 4 tracks wide at this point and the ground on this side was deemed to be more stable. Unsure. Maybe the main line was actually on this side where all the trees are, and that side we've just been walking on was in fact sidings or passing loops. It's not been long resurfaced either, look, the last couple of years or so. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene going forward. And a few hundred metres later we get back onto the right hand side where we were before. That's looking back at that little section that for some reason we deviated around. Nice straight section coming up. There used to be quite a lot of industry down these parts. A few gypsum works and brickworks, and they all had little branch lines coming off them which served the railway. If we look here, actually, some old sections look which would have carried cables and signalling wiring and some ballast. And it continues on a little further and must be buried. There's another section there, look, you just make that out. And it'll be buried for quite a distance. So this is Horton Lane, and it's a more modern looking overbridge, isn't it? Especially with that top concrete and blue brick basement. Now there was a brass foundry over on the left hand side as I'm turning you about now, and also a plaster works on the right hand side, and both of them, they had their own little rail connection and once provided freight trains to this very line that we're walking on. You've got to imagine, with the gypsum works shortly after on both sides, that this was once a very, very busy route for freight. So at this point where I am, the railway was a few tracks wider. So we've got Lowfield Brass and Iron Foundry over there, and we've got Bowbridge Plasterworks over there. And both companies were served by rail and had their own little junctions off this main line. One shooting right and one shooting left. Our path is about to make a bit of a turn, and I believe the track bed heads straight on beyond there. There must be reasons unknown to me why this is occurring, but I assume we'll pick up the track bed in very much due course. And that is where the plasterworks would have once resided, where those new builds are, and the path just seems to be taking a decorative course along this section rather than it deviating around anywhere in particular, although it does appear that we're going to go over a road. So looking back where the plasterworks were over there and the iron and brass foundry was over there, we've got Staple Lane down here, and the course of the road follows that housing estate. Apologies for the wind. So we are indeed going over the road, and you've got to assume the railway once ploughed straight along before this road was built, because I believe this road was born after the railway closed. We've got some gypsum works still active down here. You may be able to see those big powdery blue buildings on the horizon. I wonder if there's any remains of the former track bed that used to serve that very site. Over there in centre of shot I can see the remains of some building. It looks extraordinarily abandoned. Whether it was railway related from when the other gypsum works was served over on that side, I don't know. I mean, it looks quite a few fields away and very overgrown, so I don't think I'll be able to get to it. The best thing I could probably do is fire up the drone and take a look at it from there. So as we approach Bowbridge Lane Bridge, that's just in front of us, we're going to go past the active gypsum works on my left hand side. You may have just seen it in some drone footage. It was those bluey grey powdery coloured buildings that we saw and mentioned earlier. That was on the left. On the right hand side was the site of the other works, and that building that we've just had a look at from the drone, and I'm going to see if I can actually get over there and have a little look at that from this bridge. So the small abandoned area and the old rundown building is situated right in the centre of this map. So we've got our main line running from top to bottom on the right hand side, and you can see all manner of internal railway tracks running through the site. And if we zoom out just a little more, you can see even more of these tracks worming their way through what is now farmland, and the gypsum factory is on the right hand side that is currently active today. So this would have to be one of the remaining buildings of the former Horton brick and gypsum works. It's such a sorry state, and just waiting to come down. You see the old beams at the top are charred black, which suggests there would have been a fire here at some point, which probably condemned it to its former state of disrepair. Look how greasy these bricks are. I wonder what they would have been for. Got the great big bolts coming through, which would have housed some sort of equipment, maybe even a kind of a crane gantry, because we've got a steel beam over there with a weight limit of up to 1,500 kilograms. I'm going to have a little wander over here away from the bricks, where it should be a lot safer. It also appears to have been an underground section, look. Maybe some kind of cellar. Another, what looks like a millstone, doesn't it? That's what they would have been, I imagine. I can just wander over to this side and we can see more collapsed and fallen beams, remains of a wheelbarrow down there, and some more very greasy looking brickwork just down there. A lot of arches which have been breeze blocked up to strengthen this building. I'm really surprised I was able to get to this, never mind get inside of it. Wrought iron window frames too. Appears to be the only one of all the windows around that still has such bars inside. And that beam there looks a bit precarious, doesn't it? Old electrical box just there. And just outside, look, we've got evidence of what would have been an internal railway line up. And this over here is probably where the other one used to lay. I'll turn you around for point of reference. That's where we are, look, just outside. And it must have been used to serve parts of this site. Right, time to say goodbye to the brick and plaster works and get ourselves back onto the railway. We've got a wind farm with 3 windmills sat beside each other that's going to run on our right once we get back on there. I'm quite looking forward to see what else we can find. So I'm back on the former railway line, right beside the second wind turbine, just through the trees. It's very, very straight going forward. It looks very, very long and straight. It's not very interesting, so I'm probably not going to be showing you that much before we get to the other end. But we are getting closer to the only station on this section of line between Newark and Bottesford. Cotham Station opened way back in 1879 and finally closed in 1939. I'd say that's about half a mile to a mile away, dead ahead. There's the route going forward, not much to look at all. So I'll see you a pretty long way down there. So after spending goodness knows how long walking this such a long straight stretch, we've come to an overbridge. Not with its original wall or fencing, apart from the abutments on either side, look. But even this looks like it's not been used for a long time. Probably farm access. There's the one on the other side, because there's fields over there and I can't find any streams or rivers on the map going under the track. Have a look down the other side. Again, it's just dry. This suggests it was an old underpass for probably a farm, and the same abutment and fencing on the other side. Still pressing on, still going forward. Going to go around a little corner finally, just ahead. A little further down up, we've got another bridge. It looks pretty much exactly the same as the other one we just looked at. This must be about a quarter of a mile further down. And again, not really clear what that would have been. The other side, we'll show you the same. Down we go. Got the abutments, although that one's pretty well hidden. But it doesn't really seem to go anywhere. I'd say I'm about a quarter of a mile away from the village of Cotham now. bridge here, that carries Newark Road over it, and we've got the village of Cotham just over there. And that's pretty much where I'm going to finish my journey today. But there's one last thing to go and find, and it's the site of the former Cotham station. It opened in 1879 before finally closing in 1939. Although the route did carry on going until the early 1980s, mainly served by those gypsum factories that we mentioned earlier on. And there's even a record of the Royal Train passing through in 1984. So this is where our route does in fact draw to an end. But I'm hoping that this is not the end of our little walk today. So I'm going to try and loop around and follow the road through to the site of the former station. So one last look at Rail Map online to see where we are in the village of Cotham. Now the village itself is up here in the top centre of the map, but the station, as is often the case in these rural locations, is probably about a mile away from the actual buildings. But it probably served a lot of farmland and farming communities in the area back in the day when it was opened. But it could also explain why it closed long ago in 1939. So we're stood above the railway line lot, and the old station building is just about there. Private residence, may even be a guest house now. But I'm on top of the road, got Gypsy Lane down there I believe it is, and this is what it looks like on the other side. Look, completely overgrown and inaccessible. There's something that's caught my eye down there, and I'm going to see if I can in fact get down there and have a look. And there is our former railway bridge that we've just been stood on up there. It's a fine looking thing, isn't it? Right, the other thing I wanted to show you, it looks like an old railway wagon, railway van, and it is sat just a little way up here. And here it is, look at this. What a nice little find to finish off our walk today. A beautiful old railway van just sat and left alone in nature. Just put you inside a little bit. Probably once used for storage of some sort, but completely rotten. There's the old ventilation panel just there, look, and the same in the other side. That is brilliant. So I do hope you enjoyed this video walking from Newark to Cotham. I'd like to think I can carry it on. I can come back and carry it on another time and take it all the way to Bottesford. Try and get you out of the wind a little bit. It's quite bad, but it all does look quite overgrown. But maybe if I come back in the winter months, we'll have a different picture and be able to do it. Like, subscribe, comment below. Thank you very much from me at Cotham and this beautiful find right at the end. Goodbye.